What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Heart of a Lion podcast. I am your host, Jay, and you have just stepped into the Lion's Den. If you are a returning listener, then thank you for coming back. Thank you for tuning in again. If this is your first time, then go ahead and hit that follow or the subscribe button from wherever you're listening to the podcast. Go ahead and follow the page on Instagram at HoAL Podcast. Again, that's at HoAL Podcast, as well as you can follow on Facebook at the Heart of a Lion Podcast. So again, thank you for tuning in. So I also want to say thank you to everyone who shouted me out, sent me some type of birthday wish, whether it was via phone call, text message, social media. However you told me happy birthday this week, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you all so much. To the 3 people who listen to my podcast as a way to help me celebrate my birthday, I appreciate you as well. Again, thank you. I think one thing that I've learned just from my birthday specifically is I'm slightly over exaggerating, just slightly, but I had about 15 different people either text me or call me with the new version of happy birthday. And after hearing those 15 different renditions, I genuinely do not care if I ever hear that version of happy birthday ever again. I cannot take it. I think I much prefer the Stevie Wonder happy birthday version. To which, why are there so many different happy birthday versions? There's the regular happy birthday. There's the Stevie Wonder happy birthday. There's the new happy birthday. There's another one. I think the guy's called Bobo or Babu or something like that, has a happy birthday. Restaurants got their own versions. I guess it's cool. I can't be mad at nobody for real. However you want to celebrate your birthday is cool. I just don't need to hear the new happy birthday version anymore at all. What did I do to celebrate my birthday? I said it on my first episode. I'm a big WWE fan. The weekend prior to my birthday was WrestleMania. So, of course, I was all in my seat, tuning in, watching Mania, putting kids to bed, listening to WrestleMania, folding clothes, watching WrestleMania. I was doing what I needed to do, but I was also watching WrestleMania. And, of course, it ended the way that it should have. And it was an amazing weekend. My actual birthday, I went to the movies with my wife to see the new Godzilla and Kong movie, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Of those movies, the Godzilla, the Kong, and the one they had together, this was definitely by far the best one to me. We went to lunch and then we went to an ice cream place because we were going to get some ice cream. And when we saw the prices, my wife was like, you can go ahead. I'm just not going to get anything. And it wasn't that we couldn't afford it, but 2 half scoops and the smallest bowl of ice cream I've ever seen for like $7.25, $7.50 just wasn't worth it. We literally left there, went to the grocery store, got 2 containers of ice cream and our own toppings and spent less money than we would have at that ice cream shop. That being said, my daughter made me an ice cream sundae. It was supposed to be an ice cream sundae with whipped cream on top, and it turned out being a whipped cream sundae with a splash of ice cream. And afterwards, my stomach was hurting so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. This is so creative. Thank you so much. I enjoy this. And in my inside, I was like, please don't ever do this again. But, she was happy. She was smiling all the while doing it. So, I definitely have to appreciate that. It's definitely a memory. It's something that I can, reflect back on and show her years from now and be like, look, this is what you did. But outside of that, man, it was a great and blessed week. I definitely, experienced a lot of love this week just by, my wife, my kids, my family, friends, and just all different people, who have just been amazing this week. So, and the celebration isn't done. As of this recording, the celebration is not done. I have one more way that I'm going to celebrate that maybe I'll talk about on the next episode. But this week has also been an interesting week because I actually recorded an episode that I was passionate about and intend to release. And it's not the first time I've done this, where I'm passionate about something. I'm ready to release the episode. Like I've poured everything that I have into it. And then afterwards, when I think back on it or I listen to it, I was like, I feel like I just have like this feeling where like, I'm just not feeling it. And in regards to the one that I recorded yesterday, I just realized it was outside of the standard that I set for myself for this show specifically. And because it was outside of the standard that I set for myself, I refused to allow myself to release that episode. And it wasn't that I said anything that I feel like was like extremely wrong. It wasn't wrong in any way. But because of the standard that I have for myself, I just choose not to publicly comment on certain things, or I choose to not publicly handle things a certain way, on things specifically that don't have any like biblical merit, so to speak. Like if somebody I have no problem talking about anything biblically related when it comes to this show, but things that have nothing to do with the Bible, like if I get caught too much in it, or if I get caught up too much in it, I realize like it's all emotion, and it's like what does this actually do for me in talking about this? Not to say that I can't talk about things that aren't in the Bible, like that's not what I'm saying, but like not giving too much time, space, or energy to things that really hold no value. What value does it add to my life? So that's all I'm saying, and I think that's, I talk about like the show is called The Heart of a Lion, and it's me sharing my heart. But what I've learned, what I've learned is that me sharing my heart is a release for the soul, but it doesn't always come with peace from the Lord. So if in me sharing my heart, if it doesn't come with peace from the Lord, then maybe it's something that I shouldn't be sharing until I've obtained that peace, or until, I'm just really at peace with what I'm saying. Sometimes things like we just get caught up in the emotion of saying something, but it's like, what value does it add? Like, what was the purpose of me really saying it? And I think me recording, I don't know if I've said this before, but me recording for me, it's very therapeutic. So if I, get something off my chest and I never release it, I still got it off my chest. And that was what was needed for me to do, in that therapy moment. So I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to me as I'm saying it. But again, I don't want to do anything that's outside of the character or outside of the standard that I have set for myself, and I do not believe that I'm better than anybody else, but I strive every day to be better than who I was the day before. And me being better than who I was the day before means that I have certain standards and certain things that I either will not go back to, or, a bar that I will not go below. So if I ever feel like I've gone below a bar, then I need to check myself and be like, there's no need for me to comment on that. I never want to be a reactionary creator. And what I mean is, like, if you look at, there are a lot of people who, specifically in the YouTube space, and I'm not calling out anybody, I'm not attacking anybody, because some of these people I do listen to just because I want to hear their genuine thoughts, but I never want to build a channel, a platform, or any type of space that is built solely on me reacting to the actions of somebody else. I never want to build a platform because, I'm reacting to, these are me just giving examples. I never want to create a platform or build a platform by me talking about, TD Jakes being at a Diddy party. I never want to build a platform because I'm talking about Ty Trippin on the Breakfast Club. I never want to build a platform because I'm talking about, Beyonce's new country album. I never want to build a platform for any one of those reasons. I only want to build a platform to glorify God and lead people to Christ or back to Christ. For me, those other things, cool, we can have a conversation about it. But again, I don't want to build my platform by reacting to to media news that everybody else is already talking about. Like, me sharing my thoughts on it, like to me, like, what value does that add to somebody else's life? What value does it add to my own life by doing that? Some people might find value in it. I just won't be recording or putting out content that is built on reactions. And the episode that I recorded but did not release was very much in that vein of me reacting to things and sharing my opinion or my thought on it. And it's below the standard that I have set for myself. So regardless of how anyone else is or what anyone else does, I want to come from a posture of love and compassion. And that's part of the reason why I don't do reactionary, because a lot of times, you see it where a person is reacting, but then they're bashing. They're reacting, but they're tearing down. They're reacting, but say, oh, they're not really a Christian or this, that, and the third. And not to say that I couldn't do it and still come from a place of love and compassion, but that's still not like that. The whole reaction space just isn't me. It's not for me. I always want to come from a place and from a posture of love and compassion, though. And sure, I can vent about things in private, or I can vent about things on a podcast, but don't need to put that podcast episode out. I just won't be doing that on a public space, on a public platform, because that's not how I carry myself. Whenever I share my heart on something, I want it to be with peace from the Lord. I always want it to be with peace from the Lord. And if I don't feel peace, then I don't want to do it, because what we're learning in this social media age is that it is so easy to say something, and maybe you shared a raw thought, or maybe you said something and then went back and later and realized you were wrong, or you want to change how change what you said, or maybe you said something and it was every bit of how you meant it, but people will take a 15-second clip, twist it and distort it and make you seem like you are the worst person in the world, or they'll want to cancel you. They want to be done with you. And it's like, what is the purpose of all that? And it doesn't matter what your character is, because you can be somebody who's gentle or you can be somebody who's aggressive. You can build a following, but you could also lose a following in the same way, just because people will want to cancel you just because they don't agree with the 15-second clip, which doesn't make sense to me at all. I think you should always, if it's a 15-second clip from an interview, then you should always go look at the full video just to understand the context. Same thing with reading the Bible. Like, you can't just take one verse and apply it to every aspect of life. Like, you have to go back and read the verses before it and ahead of it. Before it and after it. Sometimes you need to read the chapter before it and after it just to really understand the full context. But again, you can't just take a 15-second clip and base your whole worldview on one person or on one thing on that one clip. Because if you do, then, you're coming from with the wrong heart posture. And then I think so many times, Christians or people, I don't want to say just Christians, because it's people in general, they take it and they want to be done with the whole person. But if you are a Christian, like, what makes us, why should we be done with one person based on a 15-second clip when God wasn't done with us and he could have been done with us based on 15 seconds of our lives? So we have to change our heart posture on how we look at things. I often think about, this is just in regards to my daughter, but this is coming back to the broader point. I think about the scripture where it talks about the king who forgave the man his debt, but then the same man whose debt was forgiven went back to another man and beat that man because that man owed him money, and then later was put into prison by the king. And, I think about my daughter, like, how God has forgiven me, but sometimes I'm fussing at my daughter because she didn't do what I asked her to do. And I'm like, well, dang, like, God, but you forgave me. And in that same sense, we've been forgiven by God. But oftentimes we don't want to forgive other people, or we don't want to think other people can make mistakes. Other people have to live perfect, but it's okay if we don't. It's okay if we make mistakes. And it's like, we can't live like that. We shouldn't live like that. We should never live like that, because to live like that is honestly hypocrisy. We should never make people think that it's okay it's okay for us to live one way, but they have to live, like a saint. I'll never forget. Mind you, this person, I don't think she was a Christian. Maybe she identified as a Christian. I really don't know. But I remember this was years ago, well over 10 years ago, I think, because I think I still had long hair. But I remember we were talking about tattoos, and I remember her telling me how she took her son to go get a tattoo for his birthday. And I forget what birthday it was. I don't remember if it was 17 or 18, but she took her, maybe even 16, 17, 18, something like that. But she took her son to go get a tattoo for his birthday. And I remember talking about it. It was like, yeah, I thought about getting a tattoo before, And at that point, I don't think I wanted one anymore, but I was saying I thought about getting a tattoo. And she just cut me off and was like, you can't get that tattoos. I'm like, why? And she's like, I can't receive a word from no pastor who has a tattoo or who has tattoos. And I was just like, what? So in my mind, I'm like, so it's okay for you to take your son to go get a tattoo, but I can't have one? I appreciate you looking at me with such high esteem, but at the same time, it's like, what does that say about your son? Like, do you not believe that your son can be that? And maybe she didn't think of it that deep. Or maybe she was just looking at it for what it was in the moment. But I'm also looking at it like, what difference should it make whether I had that or not? If you can't see while I'm in the pulpit, then what difference does it make if I have it or not? But it just goes back to the point where I think so many times people will set a standard for other people, but don't have that same standard for themselves. Don't hold me to a high standard if you don't hold yourself to that same high standard. On the opposite end of that, like it causes me to always be mindful, which is part of the reason why I say I have a standard for myself and I won't release or say certain things on a podcast, because I am always mindful, and I'm mindful for how I carry myself. I'm mindful for what I say. And I do think about things like that in the sense of not in the sense of, oh man, if I go get this tattoo, then she not gonna come to my church, or she not gonna receive this word, da 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 da. But I'm always thinking about it from a standpoint of, God, if I do A, B, C, will that impact the amount of people that I'm able to reach for you? And I never want to do anything that's gonna diminish the light, his light that shines through me, which will then diminish how many people are able to receive what he has for them through me, if that makes sense. I never want to be an excuse or a reason why somebody says, oh, I don't go to church because of him, or I don't believe in God because of him, or I don't do this because of him, or I can't receive a word because of the way he's dressed or the way he looks or whatever. And again, people are going to be people. People are going to people are always going to say what they want to do what they want and come up with their own excuses as to why they don't do something. And I can't do anything about that. But what I am saying is, as far as what I can control, unless, if the Lord, if I feel a conviction, or if I feel a pause on something, then I'm going to pause, or I'm not going to do something because I feel that pause or that conviction, So, yes, I had a thought to get a tattoo at one point. It was never a strong desire. And because it was never a strong desire, I did have second thoughts like, is this something I should do? Her, that lady at my job, her saying it had nothing to do with why I didn't get it. But again, it just made me step back and reconsider, is this, or before her saying that, but it just made me rethink things. Is this something I really want to do? Is this something that's worth it? And her saying that just made me think even more. So what are different things that people look at and say, oh, I can't do X, Y, Z. I never want to be somebody's excuse for why they can't hear God, why they don't see God, why they don't go to church. And it's not my fault if they do. I just want God to use me in as many ways as possible. So yeah, that's just how I feel. That's how I feel on that. People gonna be people. People gonna blame people for, for what they do or for what they don't do. They gonna make excuses for what they do, or for what they don't do. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can use me as an excuse all you want. The Lord knows the truth. The Lord knows the truth. And I think that part of the reason why people blame other people or use excuses for other people is because of their own past hurts or traumas or whatever. And they use that as a way to cripple them intentionally or unintentionally, that cripples them from really fully receiving God. And I don't even know if the way I said that makes sense, but it made sense as I was getting it out. It made sense as I was getting it out. But that's all I got for y'all today, man. That's all I got for y'all today. Again, shout out to everybody who sent me a birthday wish or wishes. Shout out to my cousin Jerica. I was talking to her on my way to record this podcast episode, and I told her, I was like, I might give you a shout out. And she's like, oh, I was like, or I might not. And she's like, you rude. But there's her shout out. Shout out to her. I love my cousin. Love her to death. Excuse me. Pause. Rewind. I love my cousin. I love her to life. Shout out to her. There's so many people I can give a shout out to, but I love everybody, y'all. Shout out to her. Shout out to my sister Aurelia, who has a podcast called All the Shenanigans, and you can find that anywhere. Shout out to her. It's somebody else I want to give a shout out to. You know what? Let me also say this, because if she listens to this, she gonna be like, how come you ain't shout me out? Shout out to my wife too. Shout out to my wife too, because she is amazing, and as people say, she is all the things. So shout out to her. There is another podcast that I was listening to recently. Yes. So the Dear Diary podcast. The Dear Diary podcast is a great podcast. This podcast actually is part of the reason why, not part of the reason why, but it was what really sparked the start. Like my sister's podcast, All the Shenanigans, is what gave me the idea to start podcasting again, because myself, and my brother all had a podcast prior to the pandemic. And then like she started her own, and like hearing hers, like, really like gave me the itch and the interest to get back into it again. But the Dear Diary podcast, that podcast is the one that was like, all right, let's start now. So Dear Diary podcast by K. Jocelyn Marie. That is the one. She only has 2 episodes as of this moment. But 2 very powerful episodes, I should say. So if you all ever have a chance to listen to her podcast, y'all go check those out. So shout out to everybody who listens to the podcast. I definitely have some people who are faithful. My homie Namir says that I am a walking podcast. So I'll take it. I have a homie Rigby who, will text me week to week and just, tell me that he listened to an episode or tell me what he got from an episode. So I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all. I do this for me because it's therapeutic, but I also do it for others because I know other people can get something out of it or relate to. So, and in all that of what I said, I feel peace just at the end of this episode. And I know that when I recorded yesterday's episode, I felt unsettled all through that. So I know that I was coming with the wrong heart posture. So today I feel so much better. I feel so much lighter. I feel I'm in such a better headspace. And just, again, not everything is worth commenting on. Just because you see something on social media don't mean you got to comment on it. If you see something that you don't agree with, there are 2 very simple things that you can do. 3 very simple things you can do. You can scroll past it. You can get out of the app completely, or you can simply unfollow the person, or you can hide the post. I can't tell you how many people recently I have snoozed or just unfollowed just because I don't want to see this on my timeline. And not that it was necessarily all bad stuff. It's just I just don't want to see that on my timeline. And the less you see of that stuff, the less you'll feel like you want to react or you need to react. I'm just all about protecting peace, just protecting my peace, protecting my family's peace, because, depending on what you allow, depending on what your intake is, it can potentially change or affect like your mind and your thought process. And sometimes you may unintentionally take that out on your family. And it's like, I never want to be that person. I never want to do that. So yeah, that's that. I think I'm done talking for now. Again, thank y'all for tuning into this episode, the Heart of a Lion podcast. And that's it. That's it, y'all. Y'all have a great and blessed day. Y'all have a great and blessed week. Until next time.